Yours or this one here?
Yeah.
Test, test.
This one. I'll say later. Figured I would have heard it by now. Oh, there we go. That's pretty clear. Man, I'm already sweating over here. Okay. Is it muted again? Is it muted? Is it still live or hot?
We're going to get started today. We're just going to do a full disclosure disclaimer. We've got new technology, and some of us aren't the best with technology. As you know, I continue to get paper, so there may be some hiccups today, but bear with us as we get accustomed to that. And with that, we will start with our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Supervisor Vanderpool, followed by a moment of silence.
Please join me in saluting the flag of our great nation. Ready to salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. We'll begin this morning with item number 1, Board of Supervisors matters, and I'll start with Supervisor Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just click the microphone, turn on microphone. There you go. See, that's the learning process.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so now it works. All right. So a few things I wanted to go over from this last week. I spent last week, I was supposed to be in Boston for the retirement board, and thank you to American Airlines. I was in the airport at 2 hours in advance, sat there, flight was delayed, they changed the gate, and then they canceled the flights. So we were scrambling, trying to figure out how we were going to get back to Boston to meet with our investment firm for value-added real estate classification, and we ended up deciding to stay based out of LA and do a conference call, or a video conference. The retirement board is going to be investing $80 million into a classification of value-added real estate, and we ended up making a recommendation, the due diligence committee, of selecting the firm that is based out of Los Angeles. I hope Roland Hill's not here. I don't want to tip our cards too much, Roland. Okay, good, he's not here. But they're a great firm. Their fund has performed over a 10-year average of at least 12%. So that is going to be very welcome to a fund where our target rate of return is over 7. So a little over 12 is going to be very helpful. We had a KTAAA meeting yesterday at RMA. It was a different location, different time. Thought it was a good meeting, well attended. Nothing too controversial there, other than Kings County supervisors not realizing that the meeting starts on time. I have a retirement board meeting this Wednesday at 8:30, and then following that, there's a meeting with Alliant, our health benefits consultant, to talk about the San Joaquin Valley Insurance Authority renewal rates for Tulare County, and also to review plan structure options that will hopefully end up benefiting our employees if we choose to make any changes. On Thursday, I have a great opportunity to recognize an Outlaw firefighter, Gary Gregory, for his efforts to just be a good person and help a woman who had a tire blowout. A little surprising given the road conditions, but her tire blew out in Alpaw and she was stranded. Gary came to the rescue and really helped this woman who was very, very scared and was isolated. And she took the time. It was on her trip back to San Luis Obispo County, and we wanted to recognize Gary for his efforts. And so I appreciate Chief Norman helping to coordinate with me and make something happen. So I appreciate it when our employees go above and beyond the call of duty, and that was just the case with Gary. Allensworth has their Summer Night Lights Community Barbecue and Resource Fair this week. It's always a great event and well attended in the community. And then on Monday at 11 o'clock, July 29th, Calgren will be having a celebration. Who would ever thought any company would celebrate manure being added into pipelines? But there is a celebration for the renewable natural gas generation that's taking place with dairies being connected to the Calgren facility in Pixley. So that'll be a great event, and I appreciate the gas company's work to make that happen. And that will take place at 11. That's all I've got.
Very good. Supervisor Shuckling. How about Supervisor Townsend? Let's do that.
All right. So you're not ready? Okay, I don't blame you. I was doing the same thing. All right. Well, back on the 11th, I had the opportunity to meet with Poplar with the community service district there, with them, getting to know each one of the board members and those in attendance, and had a nice conversation regarding several things that are happening out in the Poplar area. So look forward to future meetings with them. And then on the 12th, was able to attend the Habitat for Humanity home dedication in Porterville, the fourth project in Porterville. And a company donates the plans, and so it's particularly nice to see that come to fruition. And we also use a high school student from Harmony Magnet Academy, who would be an engineering architectural student, to do an internship with the office. And so he was able to also attend and to see his plans being fully realized and to see the keys being turned over to the homeowners. So now we're just back in fundraising mode for the next one in Porterville, probably within about a year. Also was able to that evening attend the Summer Night Lights program out at Veterans Park in Porterville, where they showed the Lego movie, and they had a rapper out there to warm the crowd up while it was getting dark to show the movie, and bounce houses and students from all of the pathways from the Porterville Union School District were volunteering to help kids with water balloon tosses and ring tosses and tug of wars and all sorts of things. So that was a really good event, very well attended. They were telling me that they typically have anywhere from 400 to 600 people show up to those events. So some of the community, as I was kind of mingling around, told me how much they really did appreciate those step-up programs with the Summer Night Lights. And so we will see that continuing, I'm sure. And on the 16th, I was able to speak to the Springville Lions Club, affectionately known as the Springville Mountain Lions. And it's a gruff group of people up there, but they have great hearts. They, in case any of them are listening, I wanted to say they were gruff. But they do have good hearts. They do a lot of good work in the Springville community, just volunteer for every single thing you can imagine. And so I was able to give them a few county updates and take a nice time of question and answers and have a great dinner as well. And then from the 17th to the 19th, Supervisor Valero and myself attended our final California State Association of Counties, or CSAC, New Supervisors Training Institute. So we both graduated. And so now I don't know if I don't know if we're new supervisors anymore, Eddie. Have to step up now, right? But that was up in Sacramento. Enjoyed the program. Really good association with CSAC. They provide lots of training and continuing education as well. But this new Supervisors Institute, it was particularly helpful. And that's what I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, we might come back around after the meeting's over with. You could do your board of supervisors. Let's go ahead and go to Supervisor Valero.
Good morning, Tulare County. Been a busy few weeks. I attended the NACO conference in Clark County last week. I really enjoyed understanding our position from a national perspective and building collaboration among other supervisors and commissioners across the U.S. I also attended various workshops on keeping our county healthy, engaged, and connected. While there, I took a trip to visit Lutheran Social Services and the Boys and Girls Club, where I learned about cross collaboration between county developers and nonprofit agencies. Last week, I also had the opportunity to attend the Mio Car launch in Dinuba. People were able to participate in a welcome as well as a step-by-step app support and dinner provided by Calvans and Self-Help Enterprises. For those of you that don't know what Mio Car is, again, heavy promotion. It's being able to utilize electric vehicles around different communities that are being tested as pilot programs, one being in Orosi and the other being in Dinuba in my district area, District 4. So individuals can just download the app and then unlock the car by the touch screen of your phone and be able to utilize it $4 an hour or $35 a day. I believe this will be the start to grand opportunities in mobility and access to transportation, easing the burden of a lack of transportation needs throughout our county. I attended the new Supervisors Institute along with my colleague who already has discussed it, but one thing that I want to highlight is that I really enjoyed learning about all facets of our new position, from finance to organizational leadership to emergency preparedness to human resources and relationship building. I attended the Dinuba Summer Night Lights in Dinuba last week. I was able to table that evening, and one conversation that stood out to me was a conversation that I had with two elderly women who live in the Emperor Estates, and it's a senior residential living community. They shared that senior living communities should take out dishwashers in each unit and instead replace them with washer and dryer. Why? Because most of the time they're cooking for self or for someone else, not needing the actual dishwasher, but must travel to find a laundry service around town or downstairs or in their facility, which is often a burden for those that have trouble walking to and from. I'll be attending Summer Night Lights program in London on Friday, and I'll be going to Heartland Christian Camp on Monday to tour the campgrounds and learn about the services offered through that agency and group. Looking forward to attending our next board meeting in Springville, Supervisor Townsend's hometown, and touring Mountain Home prior to our meeting. And on the last section, I was hoping if I can approach the podium for the last of my comments. Please approach the podium. So first, I would like to thank my colleagues for your support of the Young Leaders Academy. This has been a month of understanding, exploring, educating, and inspiring our young leaders to dream big, work hard, and give back. Thanks to the support of the College of Sequoias, Tulare County Office of Education, Southern California Gas Company, and Tulare County Step Up, our young leaders are being given the opportunity to learn about county governance and work through problems that face our county daily. Topics like homelessness, public safety, the environment, and media. The Young Leaders Academy helps participants create strong friendships, engage in community service, and are inspired to lead in this capacity in the future. The nation is starving for leadership, and we believe YLA will be an investment in the future leadership of Tulare County. And with that, they will all come to the podium, introduce themselves, and then we have three that will just share brief experience of their program so far.
Hello, my name is Ariana Kamani. I'm going to be a junior at Rosie High School. Hello, my name is Serena Gonzalez, and I'm going to be a sophomore at Golden West High School.
Hello, my name is Jugrad Singh, and I'll be a sophomore at Mission Oak High School.
Hello, my name is Daniel Lopez, and I'll be a sophomore at Altamont High School.
Hello, my name is Carlos Chavez, and I'm going to be a freshman at Rosie High School.
Hello, my name is Justin Rodriguez, and I'm going to be a senior at Redwood High School. Hello, my name is Karina Chavez, and I'm going to be a freshman at Rosie High School. Hello, my name is Molly Farrell, and I'm going to be a senior at Rosie High School. Hello, my name is Valerie Guzman, and I'm going to be a senior at Rosie High School.
So with Supervisor Valero, I've been introduced to the Young Leaders Academy, and I'm truly blessed to be part of this academy. Thanks to Supervisor Valero, our facilitators, Amanda and Mario, we've been able to connect with inspiring leaders that we all look up to in the community of Tulare County. Some of the leaders that we've met with are the president of the Rosie School Board, the DA Tim Ward, Sheriff Mike Brudox, Fire Chief Norman, and other various leaders who make Tulare County an even better place to live in. So with the school board president, she talks to us about what goes in to making our schools, how they function, the budgeting, and what goes on in the meetings. With the DA, we went on to the courthouse, and we were blessed to take a tour of the courthouse. We met with Tim Ward, and we were also introduced to some of the assistants who work with Assemblyman Devin Mathis and some of the senators. With Sheriff Mike Brudox and Chief Norman, we were able to tour the sheriff's facility and go over what they do and what their jobs are. And I just want to say one last thank you to Supervisor Valero for giving me the opportunity to be part of the Young Leaders Academy.
I too want to thank everyone that made this program possible. Mr. Valero, thank you very much. The Young Leadership Academy has provided many great speakers with many diverse perspectives on current issues that our county is facing today. Those perspectives have both enlightened me and influenced me. Being able to experience these perspectives with my peers has made this program a huge plus for me. I love being able to relate and talk to people my age about current issues. Right now, I'm at the tipping point where some people find themselves, the point where I can either jump off the ledge of safety and immerse myself in trying to solve some of these problems. I think I'm gonna jump. So yeah, thank you again for allowing me to be here.
So as stated before, my name is Serena Gonzalez, and within the small time I've been involved with Young Leaders Academy, it's truly been a humbling and wonderful experience. We've been able to tour some of Tulare County's facilities, such as the Sheriff's and Fire Department headquarters and the Attorney's office, along with talking about some of our county's problems, such as the homeless. And overall, it's just been a wonderful experience, and I'd like to thank Supervisor Valero for starting up this program. Thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity, and this couldn't be possible without my colleagues here on the dais and their support as well. So thank you so much, and with that, that is all I have, Chair.
Very good. Supervisor Sharpman. All right. Well, that's why I knew it would be okay if Supervisor Valero went. It would take a little longer.
No, absolutely, that's fine. Thank you. Congratulations to all the young leaders. Thank you very much. I too attended the NACO conference in Las Vegas, and I really don't remember what happened. No, just kidding. Just kidding. There was some, as Supervisor Valero said, there were some great sessions, a lot of great collaboration. It's nice to meet. You know, we're a part of CSAC, and we meet regularly with supervisors throughout California, but to meet folks from across the nation and learn what they're doing was really a great experience. So also last week I chaired the task force on homelessness for Tulare County, and on our meeting last week we had our consultant home base strategies. They've been going out in the community, meeting with elected leaders, meeting with community partners and folks, and doing some surveys. They did put a survey out on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it, but these folks have done consulting around the state, but Tulare County came back with the highest amount of surveys returned. So I thought that was a pretty good thing, and it also shows how dire our situation is right now with the homeless and folks looking for solutions. And that's important too, because it's going to take more than one county or one city or one community partner. So we'll be looking forward to what comes from that in the next couple of weeks. Last Friday, I attended our San Joaquin Valley Insurance Authority meeting in Fresno County. And one thing that came out of that, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this, Rhonda, is we are going to encourage folks to use our RX mail service. It will be, we're having some incentives there. If you use the mail order, we can end up saving maybe up to $600,000 a year, correct, Rhonda? Right now, less than 3% of our users go through the mail order. If we can get that to a higher percentage, we can save more money. So currently, if you get a generic drug, it's $20. If you use the mail order, it's $15. For a retail formulary, currently it's $40. If you use mail order, it would be $30. And if it's a retail non-formulary, it's $60. And if you use the mail order, it would be $50. So you'll be hearing more about that, and I would encourage, I know I'll start doing that also. The other highlight that came from that is we got the results from this year's walking challenge, and Fresno County had more walkers, but Tulare County had more steps. So with less people, we did more. So good job, Tulare County employees. We're keeping the trophy because we had it last year, right, Rhonda? All right. And the only other thing I want to share is this Friday I'll be attending my San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority meeting. It's being held in Modesto, and that is the authority that administers the San Joaquins, the Amtrak San Joaquins. That's all I have.
Very good. I've got a few things I want to highlight over this next week. A couple of things from last week. I just want to give a shout out to our resource management agency. I held a town hall in Tonyville last week, and Juan from RMA, he's attended several of these small gatherings, and just appreciate having support from staff and being able to not only hear some of the concerns, but also to begin implementing some of the issues that community members have. So thank you for your support of these outreach efforts. A couple of things I want to highlight from the NACO. I also attended the NACO annual conference. Jason Britt, which I announced previously, our CAO, he was speaking on a panel. It was all of us board members that were in attendance were there. I don't know that we razzed you too much, but it was greatly attended. The room was packed. It was talking about workforce development and different things that we can do. How do we invest in our employees and making sure that they're growing in the positions that they have, and making sure that we're prepared as people retire and seek opportunities elsewhere. How do we backfill those positions? So it was very well attended, and I think our CAO provided a great perspective. We had I forget, they call them assembly members, but they're the equivalent in an Alaska borough. They don't have counties, but they have an Alaska borough. And so there was one individual that represented an island of about 10,000 or so, or 14,000, and she was also a mechanic. It's interesting. So, and yeah, yeah, and a doctor and a vet, as Amy said. Yeah, she's a vet for seals, though. No, I'm teasing. So it was just very good. The other individuals were mid-level managers, and one had an IT perspective, and so that was excellent. I also wanted to note that in addition to my committee assignments on the Public Lands Steering Committee and going through all the policy procedures and positions that we took, it is a great opportunity to network. And so one of the individuals that I had the opportunity to speak with for quite some time was Los Angeles County Supervisor Kathy Barger. And Supervisor Barger, she represents the northern portion of Los Angeles County perspective. She represents over 2 million people in her district alone, where we represent over 90,000. So it's quite a difference dealing with that county, but we still shared a lot of interests, and so there was an exchange as far as for me to go visit her brother's duck club and to go down there and visit her whenever I'm down in the LA area. So those are the things that I don't know that there's any immediate need that we need to partner with LA, but I think whenever we can have a friend in a very large county, then that's a positive thing, as we need to develop coalitions to move things forward in this state. Some things I want to highlight this week that's coming up. I have a Three Rivers Town Hall meeting on Wednesday evening, and I just want to thank all the staff in advance that be attending. I know it's going to be a very well-attended event. I will be talking about a myriad of issues. This Thursday, there's a couple of forest management meetings. One, we're working with our local utilities as well as the Bureau of Reclamation to create a new project on creating additional water via the San Joaquin Valley Water Infrastructure Authority, and so there's a planning meeting that's on the San Joaquin River watershed, so it's technically not in our county. However, there's benefits because we have water that comes from that watershed to our county. Also, Yosemite Sequoia RC&D has a meeting that Thursday morning. And then I have scheduled Bill Lyons, who's the ag liaison for Governor Newsom, will be in town Thursday morning, as well as he'll be in the Fresno area in Fowler Friday afternoon. And so I'm planning on meeting with him both days just to talk about water issues, SIGMA implementation, and there's two different groups of individuals that have asked me to join both of those meetings, so I'm happy to meet with him. We've met with him previously at a CSAC conference in April. Next Monday, Gloria Gray, who's the chairwoman of the Metropolitan Water District, will be in the region, and I will be attending a lunch discussing, again, regional water issues, how that impacts the LA area, how that impacts our area, and again, just trying to build a coalition to make sure that we can move forward and continue to support our communities and support our farms. And then Monday afternoon is the East Cahuilla GSA meeting, where we'll be looking at our GSP, our Groundwater Sustainability Plan. As Supervisor Valero mentioned, next Tuesday, our board meeting will be in Springville. That'll be an evening meeting. And prior to the meeting, we will be having a tour of Mountain Home. Everyone's welcome to come, and so we'll be discussing forest management, Balch Park, looking at the different things that we can do to protect our communities, our watersheds, our air basin, wildlife, etc. So, and then the last plug I want to put in is not in the immediate future, but since there's already been notices gone out, I just want to put that on everyone's radar. That we will be having a State of the County luncheon on August 22nd at the Visalia Marriott, and that is kudos to the Visalia Chamber of Commerce. They are hosting the event. They are putting it on. We will be giving updates, and I just want to thank all of my fellow board members for creating videos. So you'll get to see all of us there, and providing various updates on different aspects of the county and what's going on. We hope that it's a little bit more lively than the normal. I won't make any judgments of the past state of the counties, but we hope that it's a little bit better or a little bit more lively. So, and I appreciate all of the Health and Human Services staff for helping with the video segments. They've really been very helpful, and I've watched all of them, and they're excellent. So that's really good work. So appreciate that. All right, with that, we will move on to item 2. Present a proclamation to recognize last week. I guess there's a portion of this week. July 21st through 27th, 2019 is Probation Services Week in Tulare County. And Chief Bonwell, there you are. Come on up.
Good morning. I'd just like to say a few words. Good morning, Chairman, Board, Mr. Brittens Peterson, Michelle Bonwell, Chief Probation Officer with the Tulare County Probation Department. I just wanted to take a few moments to express our appreciation for this acknowledgement. The department is committed to the work we do on a daily basis. We are tasked with changing lives and the expectation to provide results. We are expected to motivate our clients to change their behaviors when they have typically already lost trust in systems and those who work within them. It is because of our dedication and commitment to change lives that our officers return to work day after day with the hope that today their client will turn a corner. We accomplish this by building client relationships where we engage in a caring, trusting, and firm but fair manner that emphasizes a commitment to client success. We utilize techniques based upon cognitive behavioral and social learning techniques as they are proven to reduce recidivism. We are further committed to an evidence-based approach to public safety that promotes positive behavior change, as this speaks to the core of who we are and why we're committed to this profession. I also want to say thank you to the men and women of the department who stand behind me today and those in the field working with our clients. It is because of these probation professionals and the work they do on a daily basis that lives are changed and communities are safer. Thank you.
Come back around, Michelle. That's what I thought. So this is a proclamation recognizing this week, July 21st through the 27th, as Probation Services Week in Tulare County. Whereas the Tulare County Probation Department is an essential part of the criminal justice system, and whereas probation professionals uphold the law with dignity while recognizing the right of the public to be safeguarded from criminal activity, and whereas probation staff are trained professionals who provide services and referrals for offenders, and whereas probation staff work in participation with law enforcement agencies, community organizations, and groups to provide public safety services to our communities and rehabilitative programs to offenders, and whereas probation staff provide services, support, and protection for victims and recover restitution for these victims, and whereas probation staff promote prevention, intervention, advocacy, and offender accountability, and whereas probation professionals advocate community and restorative justice, now therefore be it resolved that the Tulare County Board of Supervisors does hereby recognize the week of July 21st through 27th, 2019 as Probation Services Week in Tulare County, and encourages all citizens to honor these law enforcement professionals and recognize their achievements. Signed July 23rd, 2019, Kyler Crocker, Pete Vanderpool, Amy Shucklian, Eddie Valero, and Dennis Townsend. Thank you. Did you want your folks to come on up? Come on up, probation. Probation, you want to check my ankle monitor? I'm still in county. I know. Don't tell them that. That's the other county. Yeah. Yeah, bring them all up. Don't be bashful.
As they're coming up, Mr. Chair, may I say something?
Absolutely.
I just want to reiterate what the proclamation said. You folks are the ones who are out there in the community building the trust and rapport that I believe is needed with these individuals to keep our communities safe. So thank you.
Yeah, I did.
I did too. I got a text and I was like, what is that? Oh yeah. We do have people in the field, I promise.
Yeah, everyone stand up in the back. Come on, Amy. Tiptoes.
Chairman? All right, so I'd also like to share something. Oh, yeah, I think it's on. All right, so I would also like to share that I would say thank you for holding so much on your shoulders. We value your commitment, care, and compassion for those that you seek to help. And one thing that I'm reminded of is Father Greg Boyle, who says, if there's a fundamental challenge within these stories, it is simply to change our lurking suspicion that some lives matter less than other lives. But thank you for the work that you do, and knowing that the work that you do is so meaningful, but also changes lives for to change our society. So thank you so much for the work that you do.
Mr. Chair, just to comment, I just want to thank all the probation officers for what they do. And really, Chief, just real quick, I appreciate you bringing your department here today and having everyone take part in this. I think that's really a special way to declare this week. So thank you for thinking of that, and thank you to all the probation officers and probation employees for coming here today. It's wonderful to see you and have you be here. And now I would like that you go back out there and keep our community safe. So thank you.
But the chief did say that she promised there were other people in the field, so that she said that's not the whole department. But I just want to echo what the resolution said, and really appreciate all the work that you guys do as far as evidence-based and really trying to reduce recidivism. I mean, that's really crucial that we get individuals, not only that we protect our communities, but then we reestablish them and make them productive members of our community. So I appreciate all the work that you guys do. Thank you. Turn that on there. All right, we have one other presentation. We have a presentation recognizing August 2019 as Child Support Awareness Month. Mr. Dixon. I have a proclamation in my hand. Come on up.
Mr. Britt, Mr. Peterson. I just want to say that each year the department has Child Support Awareness Month, where we go out and try to educate our community on the great services that we provide. I brought not quite extensive group with me of those individuals that make it happen, some of those that make it happen on a daily basis in our supervisory group, and we have a work group that implements a lot of the activities that we will be presenting today in the press release that we have throughout the month. But I really want to say thank you, and I appreciate all your support.
You could have joined us last week at NACO. You know, you could have watched some basketball. I'm just saying. I know. Side note. There you go. This is a proclamation recognizing August 2019 as Child Support Awareness Month in Tulare County, whereas the vision of the Tulare County Department of Child Support Services is to educate and empower families with the knowledge and resources to promote the well-being of children, and whereas the mission of the Tulare County Department of Child Support Services is to enrich our community by partnering with parents to obtain accurate child support orders to assist families in meeting medical and financial needs, and whereas more than 22,618 children benefit each year from services provided by the Tulare County Department of Child Support Services, with approximately $40 million in child support expected to be collected and distributed in federal fiscal year ending September 30th, 2019, enabling children to grow up in a healthy environment where they receive the financial, medical, and emotional support they need from both parents is among the department's highest priorities. And whereas August 2019 has been selected as Child Support Awareness Month in the state of California, now therefore be it resolved that the Tulare County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim August 2019 as Child Support Awareness Month in Tulare County. Signed July 23rd, 2019, Kyler Crocker, Pete Vanderpool, Amy Sheckley, and Eddie Valero, and Dennis Townsend. Come on up, everybody.
This is a great looking group here.
Yeah, why not? Or you might need to get on the end.
Ready to get in?
Mr. Chair, just real quick, I want to thank all the employees in Child Support Services. This is a department we don't always get to hear from or see in the audience, and the work you do is so important to the viability of children in this county that are in split households or have only one parent. So I really do appreciate the work that you do. I know that it's not always easy and recognized, but this is an opportunity for you to be recognized here in these chambers, and thank you all for coming here today. That means a lot as well.
I just want to follow that up as well, and also just to note that the field that you're working in is one that you're dealing with children when they're at a really vulnerable point in time, which obviously you know that, and so we really appreciate you stepping in and taking care of those situations, helping those transitions to work smoothly and those interactions to work as smoothly as possible. Really appreciate the time that you put in. Thank you.
And I also just want to say thank you as well. This hits home to me because I have two cousins that have gone through the system as well, and they wouldn't have been able to move forward without the help and support of Tulare County. So thank you so much for the work that you do.
And again, just iterate what was already stated, that I know it's many times there's stressful situations that you're dealing with and trying to get financial support, but we recognize the need and for those families and for those young people, and so just appreciate the work that you do day in and day out. It's not easy, but it's definitely needed. So thank you for serving our community. With that, we will move on to public comments. I have 2 requests for public comments. First we will take up is Mr. Matt Wang. So informal today, Mr. Wang.
It's different being on this side of the podium. My name is Matt Wang, and for the next 3 days I live at 2865 South Lovers Lane, Unit A. For the last 3 years, I had the privilege of serving on the team for your legal representation. Going to law school, we hear horror stories about our clients sniping at each other and just being miserable to each other, and I want to say that was not the...
It could have been real bad.
That was not my experience at all. I've been very pleased and impressed. Some electeds don't know the difference between ruling versus governing, and I've been impressed with the level of preparation and devotion you've had to the citizens of Tulare County. I want to thank you for taking a chance on a guy fresh out of law school and at least pretending to listen to the legal advice I was giving. So thank you. I hope our paths cross again.
Thank you, Matt. And just say I appreciate the work. I know we were able to work on our abandoned and neglected orchard program, and appreciate your help on that and many other things. Thank you. Next we have Stephanie Souza. And if there's, those are the last of the public comment forms that I have. If anyone else is wishing to speak on any matters that's within the board's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda, there's forms in the front. Please fill that out. Thank you, Stephanie.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Souza, and I live in Tulare. I've been a Tulare County employee at the assessor's office for 12 years. The reason that I am here is I am representing my county employees with SEIU. We are here to try to get you, our Board of Supervisors, to understand the outrage over the offer of the 2% increase over a year for the next 2 years. Behind us, you'll see banners that many of our largest work site employees have signed in support and highlighting our collective frustrations. Why are we upset? Turnover is affecting the service levels of the county and hurts our ability to provide the services to the most vulnerable in our community. This includes children under Child Protective Services, those under adult services, and our veterans. More county employees are leaving in some cases faster than we adequately can train them. A 2% raise means that Tulare County will fall even further behind other counties in pay, making it even harder to recruit them and retain qualified applicants. You have the ability to address this. It's your responsibility to address this. Invest in the services and the people to keep this county running. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Samantha Ferrero, 2800 West Bureau in Visalia. This morning, I just wanted to take a moment of your time to introduce a face that you may have seen around the office. So I have with me today Brianna Hernandez, who will be spending some time volunteering some of her summer hours and learning more about our operations and what we do here at the Tulare County Board of Supervisors and with the administrative side of our office. Brianna goes to Mount Whitney High School here in Visalia, and she's a graduate of the Farm Bureau's Youth Leadership Academy. She got a little taste of governance and got to explore what kind of the decisions and actions that you take during a board meeting and wanted to learn more. So she's interested in going to Fresno State after she wraps up Mount Whitney High School. Told ya. I knew we had some dogs fans up there, and she wants to major in animal science. That is true. We're on theme today for today's meeting. So, and she wants to study animal science. So just wanted to introduce her to your board. If you see her around, she'll be helping board staff out with a variety of things.
Animal
And,
science interning at the board. What does that say?
we learn a lot of lessons here. So I'll give Brianna an opportunity to say a few words.
I would just like to thank the supervisors and the staff for welcoming me in and allowing me to gain some insight on how our local government works. Thank you again.
I just wanted to thank Sam and thank Brianna for your interest. I actually interacted with Brianna through the Farm Bureau Youth Leadership Program, and she immediately, I think it was the next day after the program, asked if there was any internship opportunities with the office, and I think she probably found the presentation about what the county does and how the county does it very intriguing, and wanted to learn more, and so I appreciate you following up on it, and I hope you enjoy your opportunity, Brianna.
Good. Any other public comments?
I'd like to add something too. I think it's important, whether it's in an organized group like YLA or just, an interested student who maybe has passed through at some time, that we do offer those opportunities for our youth to learn about the county and our community. So thank you, Brianna, for following up on that.
Excellent. One last shot, public comments. All right, we will move on to our consent calendar. Items 8 through 33. Item 28 has been pulled for separate consideration. Are there any other items wishing to be pulled by members of the board?
If I could just make a comment on...
Turn on your mic.
Just a brief comment on 16.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So at this time, I know that we are coming to a completion and wrapping up the grant application. So again, just tremendous kudos to the GSA, General Services Agency, and John Hess for filing this and getting it ready for submission. I know it's been hard work, but nonetheless, also thanking my colleagues on the dais for allowing us to utilize these Prop 60 funds in Goshen for now and then moving throughout the county. So again, thank you to my colleagues on this as well.
Any other items which should be pulled or commented on separately from members of the board or members of the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
We've got a motion by
I'll second the
Supervisor
motion.
Shucklin, a second by Supervisor Vanderpool. Please cast your votes. And the vote is unanimous. 5 yes votes, no votes, no abstentions. Is that what you want, Madam Clerk?
Everybody voted, nobody absent?
Motion
2
passes.
November
No
0,
absent.
0.
I see it's all very nice, and I still like the old one. All right, very good. We'll take up item 28. This is item Resource Management Agency right-of-way transfer agreement with California High-Speed Rail Authority. No.
Testing. All right. Very good. Good morning. Reed Shanky with the Resource Management Agency. With this item, we're requesting your consideration of another agreement with the High-Speed Rail Authority, one in a series of different agreements that we've established to allow them to proceed with their project. This item, or this agreement specifically refers to right-of-way transactions. Obviously, they're coming through with the rail, and there's a series of right-of-ways. Some of them are actual roads, 6 of them. There's a number of what we refer to as the paper streets, which are existing right-of-ways over properties where there is no actual road. So some of those will be vacated or abandoned, and the others, there's some actual just offsets or relocations where the rail facility will be providing overcrossings or undercrossings. So ultimately, we're not really losing any access from the east to the west of the rail line through this. but this will allow us to move one step further forward in the process to either abandon or vacate the properties or the right-of-ways that we have, in exchange for which they will be providing equal properties, or in some cases greater properties, to allow for the transportation to proceed through there. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to do that. I can provide a quick update on the status of the project in general, if that would be helpful.
Supervisor Vanderpool?
Yeah, I think an overview would be very helpful. I know that when I saw this on the consent calendar, I wanted to make sure this was pulled and considered separately, because this is the first agreement that several of my colleagues have seen with the High-Speed Rail Authority. And when this whole train started a few years ago, you know, we really looked at it as, some of us looked at it as a real opportunity to make sure that if it was built in Tulare County, that we had a say in what it looked like. And so that's why you have overpasses, underpasses, many different access means throughout the county. It's because we had a seat at the table and we were able to accommodate our property owners to the best of our ability, not entirely in many cases, but to the best of our ability. And also, just comment on the totality of road improvement that we are actually seeing paid for by the High-Speed Rail Authority in Tulare County because of our seat at the table and working with them.
Absolutely. So certainly there was a good foresight and recognition that the train was coming, and instead of fighting it and lying down on the track, so to speak, we were trying to get as much out of the project for the benefit of the residents in the area there. So there's a series of overpasses and underpasses that are being constructed to allow for the transportation through there. There's 6 of them, and then in addition to that, the county was able to negotiate roughly $10 million, or about 12 and a half miles worth of additional roadways that the project will construct to allow for improved access. Primarily, the initial concept was for emergency vehicle access through some of the more remote regions of the county where the train is coming through. So we did have an overlay on Road 24 and Road 40 that was completed in the spring of 2017. Avenue 120, a section of Avenue 120 was reconstructed this spring. Avenue 24 will be reconstructed. It's currently on hold. The project has had some issues with environmental clearances through California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And currently they're building the embankments on the Avenue 88 overcrossing. We'll also see overcrossings at Avenue 120, Avenue 56. The design on that's been completed by the Rail Authority. Avenue 24, the design's about 90% completed. Avenue 136 is proposed to be an undercrossing. The design's about 90% completed. Various frontage roads where county roads come in and will be offset a little bit, currently under design, about 90% completed. And Avenue 88 road construction, the design's about 90% completed. So that includes, I mentioned, the about 12 miles of additional roadways that the county was able to negotiate into the project. All staff time that's incurred related to this project is compensated for by the Rail Authority, so there's no county expenses in any way associated with this project. So that's a bit of a background. If there's any other specific questions, be happy to try and answer them.
Any other questions from members of the board or members of the public? Supervisor Townsend?
More of a statement than a question, but Rita, I want to thank you for the foresight, as you were mentioning, to look at what was coming, regardless of how well the high-speed rail progresses or doesn't progress. We know that a portion of it is that's crossing through Tulare County. You had the foresight that, as a Supervisor Vanderpool mentioned, the previous board had the foresight to look forward and say, let's work within those parameters. I know serving on TCAG, they had the same discussion. Let's work within the parameters to do the best that we can for the people who live in this county. And so thank you for that, and for being able to get those roadways taken care of, especially those additionals that you just outlined. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Moved by Supervisor Valero, second by Supervisor Vanderpool. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please vote. Or not. If you're not, then don't vote. No. Anyone wanting to cast votes, please cast your votes. And the motion is unanimous, 5-0. Thank you. 5-0-0. I'll do that. All right, now we will take up our timed items, beginning with item 5, a public hearing, a request from the Resource Management Agency to consider placement of delinquent water and sewer services fees, penalties, collections, et cetera. And just, the public hearing is now open for item 5. That? No, we finished consent. We did consent first and then 28. One presentation for 3 items, but 3 separate hearings. All right.
Since there was so much repetitiveness in the presentations, we combined them into one, so there'll be 3 public hearings, but only 1 presentation. Good morning, Sherman Dix, Tulare County Resource Management Agency. Before you today is this our annual process where for the sewer and water systems that we manage, at the end of the year, any delinquent amounts we roll to the property tax rolls. So we'll give some background, timeline of our process of how we got here. We've given quite a bit of notice to users to make sure they're informed that these amounts will get rolled to the property tax rolls. Talk about the background of these water and sewer systems and our the ordinances related to our ability to put these on the tax roll, and then just some statistics on where we stand as far as percentage of users that are delinquent, total amounts related to that. So first, public hearing will be for CSA 1 and 2. These are county service areas 1 and 2. It encompasses the following areas: Delph Colony Sewer and Water, El Rancho Sewer, Seville, Tonyville, Tuleville Sewer, Traver Sewer, Wells Track Water, and Wells Track Sewer, and Yedem Sewer and Water. One note is El Rancho is not included because all of their charges are put on the tax roll at the beginning of each year. We collect service fees to cover the maintenance and operation of these systems. Customers have failed to pay those service fees, and based on our county ordinance 2924 and also a series of amendments to that ordinance that authorizes the board to place the delinquent fees in the property tax roll. And this is in accordance with provisions of the Health and Safety Code. Terabella would be the next, I think this is actually the last public hearing, but Terabella Sewer Maintenance District is administered by Tulare County and billed directly to the users. Similarly, some customers have failed to pay for those services. The ordinance for the Terabella Sewer Maintenance District is number 3, and this allows the board to collect based on the Health and Safety Code. In addition, the Seville Water System is operated or in receivership by the county. Similar situation, some users have failed to pay their service fees. There was a Tulare County ordinance number 3428 that, based on the Health and Safety Code as well, allows us to place the delinquent fees on the tax roll. So some timeline of how we got to today. April 30th, customers with a balance were mailed notices with the information on the back stating that this process would take place. We sent another notice on May 31st, 2019. The final notice was sent to them June 28th. We published it in the newspaper on the 3rd of July, the 10th of July, and the 17th of July in accordance with regulations. And then today we are here to conduct a public hearing. We will accept payments against their outstanding fees up until July 31st and up until 4:30 p.m. on that date. And then delinquent customer list will be delivered to the auditor's office for placement on the tax roll on August 12th. So some summary of delinquent charges. We've actually seen a reduction this year in slightly in the total number of delinquent customers over breadth of these systems. The 220 delinquent customers is about 13.83% of all customers. And the total delinquent charges are $69,764, which is about 9% of total charges for the year. Here's the history. There was a big spike last year, and then we've seen a slight decline this year. I also have some notes. We have had higher collections of past due amounts that have been put on the property tax roll. So last year at this time, it was roughly 41,000. Currently, it's roughly 60,000 of prior years that have been put on the tax roll that have been paid off. In addition to the amounts that are delinquent, we also assess $200 per zone of benefit and $1 per parcel number, and there's an additional 10% penalty. So our request is to conduct a public hearing and then to direct the auditor tax collector to place the delinquent sewer and water service fees for the county service areas 1 and 2, Terabella Sewer Maintenance District, and Seville Water Company on the tax roll if still delinquent after July 31st, 2019. Be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Very good. Any questions, comments from members of the board for, this is specifically for CSAs 1 and 2? Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Supervisor Townsend.
Okay. Sherman, looking through the, just drilling down into it, on some of these delinquencies, a lot of them are $100, $200. There's a few that are in the 5s and 6s. There's a couple that are like $2,500. Are these more than a year? Some of these?
It won't be more than a year. It could be the type of parcel that it is. So, if it's like a multifamily parcel.
So it might, yeah. So that might be just a full year behind.
Yeah, full year. Definitely, there's some that you know, it's consistent. I don't know that. I don't have the exact numbers, but I think some are allowing for it to be delinquent for a year and then they pay it through their property tax.
Okay.
You also have some issues where there's tenant and landlord situations, maybe some confusion on whose responsibility.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Other questions, comments from the board, members of the public? This is a public hearing. Please state your name and address if you'd like to speak. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Move approval.
Moved by Supervisor Townsend.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Supervisor Vanderpool. Any further discussion? Please cast your votes. And the motion carries unanimously, 5-0. And the public hearing is now closed for item 5. The public hearing is now open for item 6. And this is placement of delinquent water service fees for Seville Water Company. Any questions, comments by members of the board for this item? Members of the public?
Just
go ahead.
real quick, I mean, I'm not up in Seville very much. So what is the status of the CSD and the consolidation, that project? Because this was supposed to be a temporary receivership when the board entered into this in 2009, and here we are, 2019.
Sure.
I think if we're, before we vote on this, it would just be great to have a little bit of an update.
Sure, and maybe Reed would be better at explaining that.
Reed Shanky, Resource Management Agency. Yes, you're right. This is part of the process in which we're hoping to eliminate our receivership of the water system, in particular here in Seville. The construction project is currently active. I'd place it about 50% complete. They're putting in pipelines, putting in a new large tank out there. Phase 2 of the project, we're still working with the state for grant funding on that. That'll consolidate us with the community of Yedem and the Yedem water system. The CSD has been formed. They have a sitting board. They've met probably 4 or 5 times now. They're getting familiar with the process. We will have to go through a Prop 218 process, which actually is in action right now. We've got the publications out to set the rates for metered rates. We're putting water meters in as part of the construction project in Seville here. So LAFCO has established one of the conditions that we have new metered rates in place, and we set up the CSD for success. We don't want to hand them a system that 2-3 years down the road won't be able to work. But hopefully by the end of this calendar year, we have everything in place as far as a functioning and dependable, reliable system in Seville, and the CSD is able to step in and really take control of that.
Well, thanks for the update, Reed. I think that it's very important that when we do turn it back over to the community, that it's a viable entity and it's a viable system. So the work that's being done by RMA and in collaboration with the state and other partners to make sure that this happens is very important. So thanks for all your due diligence on this.
And even though the water system hasn't been to its greatest, the community is still getting potable water, right? In terms of the
so currently the system in Seville is on a boil water notice, so it's non-drink, but it is getting water, so showering, watering their lawn to some extent. There's restrictions on watering usage out there, but they're currently on a boil water notice.
Any other questions, comments regarding item 6 from members of the board, members of the public? This is a public hearing. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for action. That means I need a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Moved by Supervisor Shucklian, second by Supervisor Vanderpool. Please cast your votes. And the motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Next item, the public hearing is now closed for item 6. Public hearing is now over for item 7. And this is delinquents for the Terabella Sewer Maintenance District. Any questions, comments for staff regarding Terabella Sewer? This is a public hearing. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Please state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I'll bring back to the board for action.
Move approval?
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Shucklian, second by Supervisor Townsend. Cast your votes. And the motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we will go on to our not timed items, and we'll begin with item 34, approve an amendment to agreement with California Forensic Medical Group. Just a small contract.
Do I do something? First day.
You're gonna have to talk about sewer and water issues.
Yeah, I know.
instead.
Okay. No, it has the same thing as up there. See, we have first day, first time use.
We're all in there, Karen, so, you know. All good.
Good morning, Chairman Crocker, Board, Dr. Britt, Ms. Peterson. I am here today to talk about an amendment to our criminal justice health and mental health care services that is provided by California Forensic Medical Group. I wanted to provide a little bit of background also for some of the newer supervisors, since this is probably the first time we've brought something in front of you about it. We entered into contracting for health and mental health services in the criminal justice facility in July 2013, primarily based on the fact that after a lot of changes in legislature and AB 109, which realigned some of the jail inmates from prison to county jails, it created a lot more time in there. We were dealing with a lot more chronic illness issues and mental health issues, and it got to the point where to protect the county in terms of having somebody who is specialized in these services provide them. We entered into a 3-year agreement with California Forensics Medical Group in July 2018, so we've just finished our first year. The contract was a 3-year contract with additional 3-year terms for the future. Today we come because we're amending the current contract to coincide with the opening of the South County Jail Facility. They are planning on taking inmates, I think, in September, and we need to have some additional staffing for the health and mental health facilities start occupying in August to kind of get situated in the facility. There is some moving parts in here in terms of, I think, Men's Correctional Facility will be transferring most of their inmates over there. Main jail ultimately also, but I think they have to, just do this sort of in a transition period. So with that, we needed a new staffing model. And a lot of it has to do with, even though some staff from Men's Correctional Facility will be going over there, it has to really be, because of distance-wise, based as a standalone facility. You can't have somebody that can come over there quickly because it's at least an hour drive from the North County facilities. And this is the new staffing model. There is going to be 27.25 new FTEs that are added to the contract. And this is due to, again, as I said, that we have to have a full standalone facility. Plus, again, in 2018, I think there's been just more updates to Title 15 in terms of compliance issues. So this is a look at our contract costs to date. So it has, as you can see, definitely gone up, which is always concerning, but it is the cost of caring for the inmates. And the graphs basically show you what it is for the sheriff or adult facilities, and in the lower is the juvenile probation facilities, and at top is the total cost of the contract. Yes? Sure.
Why is contract cost to youth lower than contract costs to adults? Is it due to population served or to meet requirements for adults that are different for the youth?
It's a little bit of both. It's both and. There are definitely less juveniles in the probation facilities. It's like 200 or so, whereas in the sheriff's, the adults, you're going to have around 1,400 to 1,500. So you definitely have the difference in the number, but there's also chronic issues in terms of, you're going to find probably, again, in the adult facilities, you're going to have a lot more medical needs based on it, just because, again, older, a little more chronic issues that you're dealing with.
All right, thank you.
And what I have here is the cost estimate for the next 6 years. So we do have 1920 in there that we have budgeted for. You have two columns there. There is the contract cost, because I do also want to point out the total cost of actually monitoring this does increase it a bit. We do have staff. I have a QA nurse that oversees the records and some of the services provided. We also have a person who does contract monitoring. On the mental health side, we also have somebody who does a lot of work within it. There's some also a little additional cushion if an inmate ends up in the hospital. That is a carve out of it, where we do, as the county, pay for it in terms of doing some medical share costing. So there's some contingency built into that. So you have what the contract cost is for CFMG plus the additional that is just to basically maintain the contracts.
Mr. Chair, real quick before you leave this slide, Karen, would you just provide a little bit of an overview? I don't think the general public realizes how much money is spent on medical care for inmates, and I think it's a very important point. During my time on the board, we actually started, or when I started, we were providing the care in-house for the inmates. And I know you have the history as well. Could you give a little bit of an overview as to what the cost was to the county when we were providing versus having an outside contractor? And I know the populations have changed and the costs have gone up, but you know, I know this is a staggering number, but at the end of the day, I still think it's the most fiscally responsible action for the county to take.
In terms of, it's been a while since I think that 2012, 2013, since we moved over from us staffing it ourselves to the contract. It actually was a bit less, but with that, we had very difficult times trying to find providers. The acuity of the inmates as they began to come in, we were putting ourselves at risk liability-wise in terms of the care, and we wanted to make sure that, again, specialty services, as just the difference in the population and the issues that they dealt with, continued to increase in terms of severity, our liability also increased. And so we felt that, or the board felt, and we actually went out to RFP at that point and looking at the other counties, and everybody I think at this point has transferred to where they're not carrying it for on their own, but they are actually contracting with those corporations who have the specialty in it. But we have seen that in terms of the chronic disease issues, the length. Again, I want to go back to the AB 109. You used to be in the facilities for less than a year, maybe 6 months, and now you're seeing people years in there. So you do definitely have more issues. And so they are able to go out, recruit, and get the specialized personnel that is needed for it. I should also add on here that for the contract costs, these are estimates based on the fact that with the transition, we do have some things built into the contract. If our average daily population is less than a certain amount, I'm sorry, I don't know the actual number, if it falls below a certain amount, we actually get credits back because there are less people and they don't have to staff it as much. If it goes above an amount, then we do pay per inmate more. We also have something worked in there that if we see that this is continuing where it's continuously below or continuously higher, that we come back to the table and do another amendment in terms of making sure that we have a good contract in place that shows actual costs that we expect.
Karen, excuse me, while you're on that, I was going to chime in after Supervisor Vanderpool's question there, so it's not to break your flow twice, but
Fine.
Hey, with the move, since we are moving inmates from, you touched on it a little bit, from the correctional facility and eventually main jail, we're adding the 27.25 full-time employee positions. Is there any recognition that we won't be needing those people over in those facilities? I know it's the drive and everything, but we're not laying those people off, or are we stopping that? I mean, we're adding 27.5, but we're mostly moving people from
Some are
one place.
transitioning over. It was an additional 27.25, so those that were, and again, it's through CFMG, so we wouldn't lay off anybody personally. But nobody would be. They would be transitioning that staff. So that staff that's no longer needed at Men's Correctional Facility will go over there to South County Facility.
And we're not getting that many more. I'm just wondering how the math works there. Why, since we're mostly moving inmates, not gaining more inmates,
right? Why
the 27 more? Is it because of the new requirements that you've touched on a little bit, or why so many more, I guess?
There is some new requirements, and so some of the discharge planning and other things in terms of, I think, some of the dental services. So I think staff-wise, we're making sure, or CFMG is making sure that they've come up to the compliance. But it goes back to a lot of the distance. So you do have 2 standalone facilities. So you're going to need, you can't just have someone, transition over very fast. There's also the issue of, when I say that these are estimates, if in time when main jail they begin to decrease, they might again be decreasing staff over here, but they'll already be staffed over here. So there is going to be that probably transition of staff going down, and I'm assuming through attrition or another means. But again, back to, I don't know all the plans for certain in terms of the sheriff. I know that we still might be using main jail to a certain extent because of people who are going into trial, so you might be housing them during the day. But we're trying to, I think we're just in this period of a learning curve and seeing what's going to be needed.
Yeah, I can certainly see that. Has there been any discussion about, not necessarily needing the medical services at the facilities that we're closing down or drawing down, and where we could actually transport inmates if we needed to for a little while during the transition?
Well, the men's correctional facility, having the fact that there would be no one in there, definitely no one there. Main jail, again, I think that there might be need for just like a nurse during the day for when the inmates are there awaiting. So if there's no inmates, then there would be no medical staff or mental health staff.
I think Dr. Britt had a comment as well.
I think so too. He didn't request to speak though.
It doesn't allow me to request to speak, Mr. Chairman.
That's good. Let's keep that feature.
Thank you. Karen, I just wanted to clarify. I think part of the reason why the additional FTs are so high, even though we're moving facilities, is also because of the size of the clinic and the OPH units that have been constructed as part of the facility requires additional staffing in case those beds are occupied. Was that? is
There,
that-
yeah, there's a couple of issues where there is going to be an intake facility there. You need 24/7 staffing of a nurse there. They also have the outpatient housing facility. I think there's actually maybe even 2 of those there. So again, staffing wise, it just the minimum required staff for 24/7. If there's anybody that is occupying the outpatient housing facility, or again for the intake, it expands the amount of people that you need.
Okay, and I suppose, and again, you touched on it a little bit, but I suppose that if we see a year into it, that we are drawing down on the other facilities enough that we don't need that many positions, that we'd be able to then.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, back that back down.
Definitely, yes.
Okay,
This
thanks,
is about a 4 million bump from the previous. And then the years that are projected out, it is projected on a either 3% flat increase or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. So that's, again, why we're projecting out the rest of it. It's basically a 3% increase. But again, in year 22, 23, or is it 21, 22? Yeah, 22, 23 when we go back, because that begins our first years of, I think, additional years that we can also make amendments. But we can make an amendments anytime throughout. And we do have things built into the contract that states if the population falls below a certain amount, they won't need the staffing, so we get per inmate and sometimes some staffing credits back.
Good, okay. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And then this is just another graph to let you know. This is just the rise of when it began and what we project it out to be. So for, just to give you information again on the background of how this contract will be paid, we do get some AB 103 realignment money that comes to us, and that's $1 million. Health and Human Services Agency contributes things through our health realignment, through both mental health realignment and some other block grant funding for mental health services for a total contribution of $11.3 million. And also for the general fund, it's a hit of $6.3 million. And that again is for 1920. This is a very busy slide. I do apologize for it, but it just kind of gives you at least that you can see how everything is going to be broken down through the how we will help in terms of the agency is helping in terms of a smoothing period for the South County facility, in terms of we're doing a 50-50 in terms of county cost and realignment funding or HHSA funding, and then we'll go down to 25%. But I want to just caution that this is a year-by-year thing also with the board and with the CAO in terms of, what's the best way to cover these costs. But it is a lot of money that will be transitioned between the different departments and agencies. The sustainability, there is concern. As I said, that the agency is going to assist with smoothing period, using realignment and funds to mitigate the impact to the general fund. We do have concern, as we all do, in terms of our realignment funding that we get every year is based on sales tax revenue, vehicle license fees. If the economy does decide to slow down, go even worse than slowing down, it will impact the amount of money that we get in every year. The amount that we're putting in for some of our departments, basically uses all of our realignment in those areas that could be funding for mental health services and health services. We do, though, have funds from the past that we have been able to put aside, and that is what's helping with that. But if we continue to deplete those, that makes it an impact to public health services, mental health services. But we will definitely every year be meeting with the CAO to go over which contributions will be, and that will be assessed based on what we see in terms of the costs and how the economy is going and where our trust funds stand.
Mr. Chair, quick question. Karen, I know you're a part of various associations up and down the state. What are other counties doing? If this is something where we are questioning the very sustainability of this program, and we are in a stable financial condition, what are some of these other jurisdictions that are having budget cuts just to make a balanced budget going forward? They're having to cut things. So we're not in that position yet. I'm wondering if the state is going to have to come in with some different formulary or a different solution to help counties be able to continue to provide these services.
Right. So there's counties that don't, in the associations that I'm with, we typically talk about if public or health realignment funding is being used. And there are, Fresno County uses it. I just actually, before I came up here, I had a email from Ed Hill, which is the public health director in Kings County, St. Karen, because I was in a meeting yesterday. You said something about realignment funding. What are you doing? The comment yesterday from my counterpart in Fresno County was that they are continuing to take a lot more of our our public health realignment funding, which is causing them to have to possibly do cuts in their staffing over there. But whereas social services, mental health seem to be hiring. So the other counties, we continue to go. I mean, it's as public health, we continue to go even before the state if we have an opportunity just to say what the importance is of public health funding. We've been depleted through the years. If there is any type of crisis in terms of outbreak where we've had the hepatitis A in other counties, even if it hits 1 to 2 individuals within your county, the teamwork to have to go and do all the surveillance and investigation and all that just really takes a lot of resources. So that's the concern for us in terms of the health. There is no magic pill. There has been no, kind of shred of hope of, oh, we're going to come in and provide this to help out. I think it is a concern for those who use the public health funds. I can't really answer a lot to the ones who don't because we don't talk about that as much. But I know that everybody is having to put in more money for this. And I know that bail reform's been talked about, and that could also, depending on how that lands, if there's less people in the jails, there's going to be less need for medical and mental health services. But that's, again, a crystal ball that we can't predict at this point. Any other questions?
I just have some comments. I really appreciate yourself and staff putting together. I really appreciate that busy chart because I think it shows that there's not one pot of fund. There's multiple sources of dollars coming from a lot of different areas, including probation and the AB 109 funds, and helping out and trying to make sure that we're covering what we have to do while minimizing the impact of the general fund. I recognize that you're using your reserves, your trust funds to help with this smoothing period, and that's not easy. It's taken a while for you guys to build that trust fund up and to help weather some economic downturns. And quite frankly, we're not in an economic downturn and we're still using it. So I appreciate that. I know that it's not easy, but it's all part of being a part of this county family and helping each other out when necessary. And I know this helps us from a budgetary standpoint a tremendous amount in ensuring that we're still providing the services that are mandated, but not having to make cuts to other vital services. Any other questions, comments from members of the board or members of the public? Seeing none, this is an action item. Entertain a motion. We have a motion by Supervisor Valero.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Shucklian. Any further questions, comments? Please cast your votes. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now go to item 35. This is receive a presentation on wildfire and inverse condemnation liability for community water systems, and approve sending a letter of support for Cal Water, talking about why inverse condemnation is bad, basically. I mean, let's just say that.
Good morning, Board. Julieta Martinez, Chief of Staff for the Board of Supervisors. So the chairman just stole my intro, so you are here today to receive a presentation and consider approving a letter So with me today, I have Mr. Kevin McCusker from California Water Services. He'll actually be delivering a brief PowerPoint, and from there, we'll take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Good morning, supervisors, staff. Kevin McCusker, California Water Service. And I also have with me Tammy Kelly, who's our district manager here for our service district for Visalia. I wanted to just bring this to your attention, and obviously this is a topic, wildfire and its lasting effects is a topic of statewide consideration and interest, but there is or are some elements of it that are maybe not as well understood. And as we face the growing threat of wildfire, the deadliest and most destructive wildfires in California history happened just last year, and almost a dozen of the most destructive wildfires in California history have happened over the past 4 years. We're seeing longer duration of fire season. We're seeing more destructive fires. And one of the effects of this is that it actually can affect community water systems in a way that most people would not think could happen. So I want to start out by saying that no other state applies inverse condemnation, and I'm going to talk about that more in a second. But as we walk through these concepts, no one else in the nation applies this the way California does. It's a unique scenario. That is not to say that the various elements do not exist in other areas, but they don't stack up. They don't all come together in the way that they do here in California, which is why we face some of the challenges that we face. So I want to start out also by saying I am not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney, nor have I ever played one on television. So I'm going to try and put these all in layperson's terms to try and make them understandable. So to start out with, there's a legal concept of inverse condemnation. So inverse condemnation stems from the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, which guarantees that if the government takes your property, the government is obligated to provide just compensation. So that is a principle in the Constitution. The inverse of that is the government took your property but did not provide compensation, so therefore you sue the government, and that is your inverse condemnation, your legal recourse to get the legal required compensation to which you are due. That exists in the Constitution. So now we're going to start stacking elements one on the other. So in California, inverse condemnation is extended to include the damaging of property. The damage to a property constitutes a taking. And that exists in some other states. And I'll try and point these out that these are not always unique. But the way they fit together in California is what really causes the risk that we're facing. So if your property is damaged as the result of a public work or a public good that is undertaken by this public entity, then that damage becomes a taking and you are entitled to compensation. So this also applies to not just the state, but to investor-owned utilities, which are considered, our infrastructure is considered a public good or a public benefit. It also, in other cases, and we were just looking at a list of some of the many zones of benefits and the various CSDs and PUDs that operate around the county, those infrastructures also constitute public goods and public uses. So how this may or may not apply to them is open to interpretation, but certainly seems to theoretically apply to them as well and pose a risk to their existence. So as we stack that up, we come to the final piece, which is an element that's referred to as strict liability. And strict liability is a principle that says under this line of reasoning that there does not have to be any fault, there doesn't have to be any negligence, there doesn't have to be any foreseeability. It was your public work, it was your infrastructure, and it caused the damaging of this property. So I'll give you an example. If I am in my backyard and I am cooking on my gas barbecue, and I have a tank of, compressed gas.
Not
that
in
I'm using.
Berkeley.
What's that?
Not in Berkeley.
No, no. But I'm cooking at my barbecue.
In Berkeley.
And or even a charcoal fire. I think the gas would be a little bit more to the point. But there's a driver in the neighborhood. This driver is uninsured and intoxicated, crashes through my fence, hits this tank of compressed gas and starts a fire that burns the neighbor's house. And the insurance company comes to me and says, it was your tank of gas, you're liable. Not the driver, me, because the infrastructure, the tank of gas was mine, now I'm liable. That is what strict liability means in this context. It was your equipment that caused it, even though it was not your negligence or your fault that caused the equipment to spark or fail. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. And what this translates to in the context of a community water system. In 2008, there was a fire down south, Orange County. It's called was referred to as the Freeway Complex Fire. It was started by a car with a bad catalytic converter. Grassland fire goes out of control in the Yorba Linda Water District. The Yorba Linda Water District itself becomes a victim of the fire. Its pump station burns down. That pump station helps maintain water pressure to 12 houses in a neighborhood at an elevation. Firefighters cannot access water in the hydrants in that neighborhood because the fire has previously burned the booster station, and now Yorba Linda Water District pays $69 million for the loss of those homes because Yorba Linda Water District was itself a victim of the fire. So that's a new scenario. It's one that previous to that had not been explored legally, but Yorba Linda Water District had to pay. And I'm going to read something for you here that's not part of the presentation.
Kevin, is that because there was no water provided?
Yes, because the pump station had burned in the fire. There was no finding of negligence that Yorba Linda Water District had not built the pump station appropriately, that they had not done everything to keep the thing in good maintenance. Everything was functioning correctly. It burned in the fire. It was an act of nature or an act of circumstances beyond their control or foreseeability. And the League of California Cities, California State Association of Counties, California State Association of Counties Excess Insurance Authority, as well as the Association of California Water Agencies, which is the public coalition of public water agencies, filed an amicus brief in the case and said that it would be unconscionable to hold water purveyors responsible in inverse condemnation for damages caused by fires that they did not start. Further, they went on to say that the trial court had effectively expanded the entire scope of inverse condemnation by even allowing the case to proceed. However, that horse is out of the barn. So now we move forward as more fires occur more often for longer duration and more destruction. You come to the 2017 Thomas Fire. In this case, I apologize because it says cause is still being investigated, and there are still pending investigations, but CA Fire has determined that Southern California Edison was the cause of the Thomas Fire. However, we went from there was no utility to sue who has deep pockets to who else can we sue? And in this case, they went after the city of Ventura and the Casitas Municipal Water District in addition to Southern California Edison. So you can see a changing of strategy to say it's worked once, let's try it again. And that case is still in the works, working its way through. So what California Water and many water, including Aqua and the public water agencies, are seeking is a coalition of various entities, including cities and counties, to say that pending litigation or pending legislation on principle We support the idea that community water systems should not be held liable for damages of fires they didn't start, that it is indeed an overreach or an increase of scope in the intent of inverse condemnation, and that would provide the impetus for legislation to move forward at the end of this recess. And we're asking that Tulare County submit the letter, sign on to the letter, and join the coalition to protect community water systems here in Tulare County and around the state from this kind of scope increase of what was the intent of this type of thing. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. I think the biggest issue I see with inverse condemnation is the strict liability. I mean, that's really the biggest issue. It doesn't take into account what the cause is, whether there's intentionality or whatever. And so I think that's for all IOUs, all investor-owned utilities have that issue. And it's something that today we're just looking at from a water standpoint, but I think there's a lot of problematic issues with the state policy, and so I'm happy to support this. I will ask, as far as the context of the report, and I don't see staff here that put together the item, but if you could, in the staff report, there also had the executive summary. Oh, there you are.
You couldn't see over the top
I
of your
couldn't
monitor?
see. All right, gotcha. Like, where are you? What the executive summary states, and what state agency that came out of that, where that came from?
It was the State Commission on Wildfire, and it just approved it on June 19th. So we didn't include the entire report from the State Commission because it was a couple hundred pages, and we just stole that little summary, but that's where it came from.
So I think it's important to note where it came from, just because they have a lot of different topics in that issue, and today we're not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing with what they came up with, but that's was the context of that, because if we did, I think I would have another vote as far as whether or not I agree with all their findings, but today we're just looking at the letter. Any other, Supervisor Vanderpool?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Kevin, thank you for bringing this presentation to the Board of Supervisors. Just in terms of process, this was brought to the Water Commission for Water Commission vetting. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for action, but due to timing, due to the need to get this letter to the state for their consideration, that's why we are here today. And I appreciate the presentation, and I'm happy to support this. I think that the key slide for this board to really pay attention to was where it was mentioned that it technically could apply to municipal districts, so a PUD, a CSD, and we just approved the rolling of charges onto the tax roll for accounts that were in default earlier in this meeting. But could you imagine if a PUD or CSD was inversely condemned or found liable for something that happened, and we're hit with $1 million lawsuit or multi-million dollars of lawsuits? It would destroy their very existence. So that's where I got particularly concerned for Tulare County and its applicability here. And also, Cal Water is a service provider not only in Visalia, but in a community in Tulare as well. So I'm very supportive of this moving forward.
Other questions, comments from members of the board?
My only comment would be if we could do a roll call vote, because my screen is down again.
Okay. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
We can just proceed without shuffling voting.
I would move to second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Vanderpool, a second by Supervisor Shucklin. Do we need to do a roll call vote?
Oh.
You can do it from here. Okay, so those of us that can vote, cast your votes.
Yes.
Supervisor Sheklin says yes, and so the motion carries
She did.
5-0. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kevin. Thank you, Tammy, for being here.
How do you do, Laura?
Yeah, we'll find out. Very good. Thank you. Now we'll take up item 36.
Good morning,
yeah.
Board, Council, CEO, clerks. I respectfully request that we take item 36, 37, and 38 together, as they are all requests from staff to consider, modify as needed, and approve responses to the 2018-19 Tulare County Grand Jury Final Reports. We have 3 before you, entitled Electronic Monitoring. The second is Effects of Prop 64 and Legalizing Marijuana in Tulare County. And the third report in your packet was Tulare County RMA Code Enforcement. So if you had a chance to review these letters that were published in the agenda and made available to the public via the clerk's office, I will take any suggestions you may have at this time.
Any questions, comments, edits for staff? Any members of the public wishing to speak on items 36, 37, or 38? I just want to commend staff. Thank you for putting these together, and thank you, RMA. I don't know that we get heads up on what the grand jury is going to be focused on, but I think the additional code enforcement officers, building inspectors, was very timely considering 2 of these reports. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Oh.
Yep, so we have a motion by Supervisor Townsend for to approve items 36, 37, 38. We have a second?
I second it.
Second by Supervisor Sheklin. Please cast your votes. And the items pass unanimously, 5-0 for 36, 37, 38. We'll now move on to item 39. Board members may make a referral to staff to have staff place a matter of business on a future agenda. Are there any items, any issues that would like to have at a future agenda?
Mr. Chair, we received a request to consider county opt-in for the AB 626 Homemade Food Act for the micro enterprise home kitchen operations, and I'd maybe like us to follow up with that, see if we'd like to opt in.
Very good. Staff, did you get that? Can you repeat the legislation?
Yeah, it was AB 626, the Homemade Food Act.
For environmental health, I believe.
So Board, turning to our CAO, I believe that we are working with Environmental Health to see if we can bring a study session forward. On August 13th is a potential date at 1:30. Once we confirm with staff that they're ready to give that presentation, that's the day we'll bring that to you. After that study session, we'll look for your direction and we'll make it an official item before you.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other items which should be placed on future agenda? Seeing none, Madam Counselor, do we have need for closed session?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Items A through D and G are off calendar. The remainder of the items will be heard in closed session, and I do expect an announcement out.
Very good. Thank you for being patient with our new system, and we'll see you next week in Springville.
Yeehaw.
Meeting's adjourned.
Somebody had to do it.
Oh, you ready? This is Judy Chapman reporting out for item number H. The Board of Supervisors authorized legal counsel to initiate litigation. After the action is formally commenced, the title and nature of the action, the defendants, and other particulars will be disclosed to any person upon inquiry, unless to do so would jeopardize the county's ability to effectuate service of process on one or more unserved parties, or would jeopardize the county's ability to conclude existing settlement negotiations to its advantage. The motion was made by Amy Shuklian,
seconded by Pete Vanderpool, and the vote was unanimous. This concludes reporting out for today's closed session.